Hello everyone, and welcome back to the coverage of my Anti-Chess World Championships 2020. This is match 5 versus UltimateSuperPlayer. I decided to do this video now instead of continuing with the Anti-Chess tutorial series because I wanted to make a little bit of a quicker video, and this doesn't, although this is a longer video, it takes much less time to set up because with the tutorials I really have to think about the ways that it is more digestible for everyone and how everyone can interpret them. And so I've made a couple studies for episodes 3, 4, and 5, I think it is. Um, so those will be coming soon. But in the meantime, I just thought I'd also do this because I also got a new monitor, which allows me. I didn't know how to do it before, but now that I have a new monitor, I'm going to be including the score up here and down here, and I can change that fairly easily. You also notice I included titles down here and up there for me and my opponent for this match, UltimateSuperPlayer. And I also saw a couple people commenting about how I don't have a logo or anything like that, or I don't have like an image. It looks really boring. So I just decided to put an anti-chess symbol um, in the corner of the screen. So hopefully that settles all of your doubts without me having an image. But anyways, shoutouts once again to Kex for creating these studies. It makes it so much easier, and during the tournament made it so much easier to analyze, and it really made a big difference for a lot of people. Anyways, otherwise, shout out to UltimateSuperPlayer, amazing player, as you'll see in these games. One last thing I would like to add is in a previous episode, you've seen how if you really study properly and you go over the correct lines and stuff like that, you can really take advantage of your opponent. And in this game, you'll get to see the opposite because I definitely did not prepare properly, and this takes nothing away from the game and how UltimateSuperPlayer played because it was really an amazing match, and he played incredibly. But there were certainly a lot of things that I could have done that I didn't do, and I'll be sure to mention them come the match. But anyways, we're into game one. Remember, it's first 5.5, or if no one reaches 5.5, it's best of 10 games. So 5-5 would end in a draw, and there would be no further games played. But anyways, to start the game off, we have UltimateSuperPlayer with the white pieces, and E3 is played. And so I had prepared b5 after bishop takes bishop a6, which is the Bosnian defense, and as I expected, he took on d7. Sorry if I'm looking over in a different direction. I got a monitor over there. But anyways, I capture with the knight. And this is all stuff I had seen. d3, a very common move, probably the strongest move. Queen takes, threatening both this pawn and this knight. And I played rook to b8. All is planned. And after this take, and b4 and rook takes. The funny thing is, this was the only line I had prepared as black. Which, first of all, is something that I learned, and as you'll see later in the tournament, I certainly prepared more than one line for black. But I had prepared only this line for black, and I had only prepared for a4, and I had done extremely deep studying and deep preparation, but only for when he plays a4, because previous to this he had played a4 every single game. But one thing I didn't account for was that he also probably studied me, and I had used this defense in earlier games. So I was not ready for when he played c4, and I didn't know c4 that well at this time. I still don't know it incredibly well, but I know it much better thanks, especially thanks to this game. But this totally threw me in for a loop, and I was like, oh gosh, it looks like he really studied this line, so I don't know how it's going to work out. But anyway, so I started by taking on h2 after the recapture, and of course takes. And the only move now sorry about that. The only move now is queen to b8. That's the only surviving move, because otherwise all moves lose to queen down there, or the bishop will come here if my queen takes here. So queen here, rook takes on b8, and knight recaptures, followed by c5, just pressuring the knight. Maybe eventually you push e4 and a4, and maybe you can set up some captures on the knight. But anyways, I play knight c6. This is the most common move. But the one next move that kind of threw me in for a loop was king to d2, which I'm pretty sure is the strongest move. But because I hadn't prepped this line, I really didn't know what to do. So I just pushed a5, trying to threaten the bishop. But really, this came back to hurt me because after a4, if Ultimate Super Player ever gives up the king or something like that, then a5 can be pushed. Um, Anyways, I go knight back to a7. My thought process here is maybe I can get my knight out of the way, and then that won't be a problem. But as you see, my bishop is sort of trapped. My knight's not really going anywhere unless I give it up here. But then I got a weak pawn that's defended by my bishop. And otherwise, white has really, really nice pieces. Like the knight can develop easily. You might be able to bring your knight there eventually. The bishop's got lots of places to go. If the king moves, the bishop can come here. And I've got a weak pawn, and white can push the pawns. But anyway, so we see king to c3. Just bring the king into the game and also creating a threat like maybe this eventually. Um, but now I play king d7. It's rather that or knight c8. Obviously, this could become a problem. So I play king d7, just gonna prepare to capture with my king. And now we have knight to e2. Again, just preparing a series of captures here, which I didn't seem too scared of at the time. Knight c8 and king to c4, just bringing the king further into the game. And here I gave up my knight. I spent a lot of time on that move, but anyways, captures. And we now have rook to h1. Now setting up the big captures. And here b5 was best, just getting rid of that pawn. So maybe you can certainly delay it a couple more moves, but this is definitely like white just has really nice pieces. But I played the losing move of king d6, and if you want to try to find a series of captures here for a win, go ahead. I always encourage people to pause the video just because it gives you time to think about it, and it can really improve your game too. In this game, Ultimate Super Player moved the king. I tried to fool you there. Hopefully it did, because that would be funny. And then after knight c3, bishop d2, and rook to e1. I just promoted to knight for pretty much no reason at all. And then e4 takes, I think it was a5 then, yeah, and then e5, and then f4. After king takes f4, it is mate. So let's see how well this works. I'm changing Ultimate Super Player score, and now it is 1. Excellent. Okay. So Ultimate Super Player is up 1-0, but now I have the white pieces. And on the white side, I did do a pretty good job of studying this. I was very prepared after I played e3 to see c5 from Ultimate Super Player. So after bishop a6, knight takes, we have b4, and mind you, most of these moves by both of us are pre-moved. We have seen this line from each other many times. Queen c7. I give up my knight, and normally you don't want. Oh shoot, he did not take with the pawn. That would be bad. He definitely took with the queen, and most people keep the king, and obviously keeping your king in the opening is often considered the best thing to do because it's very maneuverable. And for those of you in anti-chess tutorials, I wouldn't recommend this opening at the moment. But I play knight e2 here, just developing my knight, and this creates a lot of threats on this pawn, on this knight. But anyway, so we have queen takes king, and after rook takes, pushes the pawn here, and knight b4, definitely the strongest move. Both knights going back can run into problems with queen d2, and then rather queen to b4 or queen a5, which against a strong player will punish this anytime the knight moves back instead. But anyways, I played g3. Rook b8-1 I know is the strongest move, but I had prepped g3 for this match. And okay, so knight takes d3. I recaptured the queen, and knight f6. And this is an important move because it protects both this pawn if I capture here, and this pawn if I capture here. So anyways, I capture here, knight away, and I further give away pieces. Again, not a hugely strong opening principle. But in this case, I see after I capture here and the king recaptures, I just have a nice pin on this bishop, a nice pin on this bishop. These rooks aren't very mobile, and the king is stuck there. So that's just my train of thought here. Bishop to b2, d2, just developing the bishop, and rook b8 threatening this move. And now play knight c3, further developing my knight, and rook to g8 now. And I play rook to h1. In this case, Ultimate Super Player makes the losing move of b5, and if you want to try and find a win here for white, this is the time to do so. And if you did it, a wonderful job. I started with bishop to b4. After takes, I play a3, and now I'm just going to line up all of my pawns on the third rank. So rook takes here, f3, and then he took on e3, and I played rook to b1. I'm assuming taking on f3, yep, and then h3, and then this is just over. We take here. I move my rook, and then after taking on h3, I played rook back to b1 again, and the game is over. So I win my first game. The score is now 1-1, and we are moving on to game 2. There you go. So I have the black piece again. I like to show it just from my perspective. I don't know. It's just my idea. And now, so I know that Ultimate Superplayer has studied this extremely well. So I decide to go for c5. And Ultimate Superplayer goes for bishop b5. I feel like this is an awkward line. And once again, I'm expecting this or maybe even this. Bishop b5 is definitely a strange one for me. And once again, I really don't know how to play against it. And Ultimate Superplayer certainly punishes me. I go queen c7, which is good, but after bishop takes here, capturing with the bishop is stronger by a lot. It creates just lots of threats, both of these pieces eyeing down here. But I capture on h2 first, rook captures, king captures, rook captures, rook captures, and the reason why you have to take with the bishop and not the king here is now queen to g4, which forks both this piece and this piece. And although it isn't lost yet, it's extremely unpleasant for white because you rather lose or you lose your king, and then your knight is pinned, your bishop's pinned to your knight. And after e4, there's a threat on the knight, and soon your bishop's going to be gone. But anyways, I play g5, and then after capturing on d7, I recapture on d7 with a knight, and e4 as expected. I play f5, takes, and now I go for e6. After f takes e6, I now play rook to e7 because I just feel like capturing the king here, and then getting into a rook race because I don't know this line very well is the best thing for me to do. But something happened that I certainly did not expect. After taking here and I take the king, I did not calculate d takes c8, promoting to knight, because now the knight only has one place to capture, and then after my rook recaptures, I'll have to come down and capture here. So I take on c1, and after taking on a7, I recapture on a7, but now a4. And this is just killer because if I capture here, rook captures, then I capture down here, and I am absolutely done for after several pawn pushes. And if I capture here and rook recaptures, then I've just got every single piece in a row to capture. So anyways, I take on b1, rook takes b1, and I take on a4. We now have c4. Just generally, you don't push these pawns because it's more difficult. Maybe you can screw something up by taking with the pawn, which blocks off your rook, and then it looks much nicer. Anyway, sorry, and then it looks much nicer for the opposing side. But anyways, rook c1 takes. We now have g3 takes here. And I probably should have resigned at this point, but I just kept playing, probably because I was frustrated more than anything. b4, rook takes b4, and now we have f4, and after g takes f4 and d4, I took with the rook. And Ultimate Superplayer goes up 2 games to 1. Let's just put that in there, and now it is 2-1. But anyways, now I have the white pieces, and I feel much more comfortable with the white pieces. I actually studied for the white pieces properly, so I'm feeling good. I go for e3, c5 once again, and I go for bishop a6. We play all of the exact same moves, queen c7, and then knight to c3, queen takes, all the exact same moves, taking the king, b3, I capture, and knight to b4, g3 once again, captures, g6, queen takes, oh, sorry, oh yeah, g6 this game, that's my bad. But anyways, queen takes d7, king takes d7, and I go for bishop d2 again, and we see bishop to g7, which is a blunder. If you want to try to pause the video, I think there's only one move for white, if I'm correct. So you can do that. Once you've unpaused the video and you're seeing me talking right now, that means you found it. So good job. In this position, I played bishop to c1, and I'm feeling really comfortable with the white piece at this point. So in my head, I'm just thinking, in this particular part of the game, I'm just thinking if I can win a couple games with the black pieces, I can probably win the majority with the white pieces, and then I'll be happy. So anyways, bishop takes a1. Let's see if you can find the mate. Takes b2. I pushed a3 and b4. Those are fairly simple moves. And after knight c3 takes, I push my e pawn, just setting up all these captures. So bishop takes the rook. I now play e5, takes here, h3 takes, and after e6, we have king takes and h4, bishop takes h4, and that is the end of the game. So now the score here, I will change that quickly. The score is now 2-2. Yes, that is correct. Oh, whoops, that's my bad. 2-2. Okay. Moving on to game 5. I have the white pieces again, and once again, I see, okay, c5 is probably not an option. I can't go back to this again, and I purposely didn't play this line for this game because I know he's very, very strong in this line, so I was just trying to avoid it. But in retrospect, I probably should have just played what I was comfortable with, and I might have done better. But anyways, after e3 this game, I go for the Liardet defense, which is b6. And at this time, I really have no idea what I'm doing, and it shows here. But anyways, Ultimate Super Player goes for the strongest move of a4. And okay, so I play e6, which starts out well, and we play the Watkins line, so the strongest line in anti-chess. Bishop takes a3, knight takes a3, and after b5 we have bishop takes b5, and queen g5. So all the mainline moves. Bishop takes d7, queen takes g2, and I had seen all of these moves from the 2018 Anti-Chess World Championship Ogle versus Arimacat. This line was played very often, so I knew a fairly decent amount of this. Bishop takes e6, bishop takes e6, and h3, the strongest move. Bishop takes, rook takes, and after queen takes f2 and king takes f2, this is where I really hurt. The only move here is h5. That's like really strong. Because after rook takes, and queen takes, you're just sort of safe. You can develop your pieces. White's a little bit stronger, but you're certainly not doing terrible. Otherwise, if the rook just captures, rook recaptures, then obviously this will be winning, most likely. Anyways, or sorry, maybe something like this instead. But anyways, I miss this and I go knight f6 because I think, okay, I can capture back here. But eventually this could lead to problems after pushing this pawn. So rook captures, knight captures, and c4. After c4, I played this move, knight to c6, which looks really bad, but I spent all of my, I want to see, you guys can't see, but I spent about a minute calculating it, and I deduced that it was probably safe, and according to the computer, it's fine as well. But pretty quickly, Ultimate Super Player plays a5, just expecting it works. But one thing the knight is covering here, even if I take the queen here, the bishop is guarding here, and there's no way it can escape. So this is actually pretty fine for now. But we see queen to a4 here. And so I capture on c4, and queen captures on e8, which is the losing move. Now would be the time to pause the video and see if you can find a mate. And assuming you did that, you are back now, ready for the amazing solution. And the answer is knight takes on b2. Because now it's just the knight doesn't have to capture anything else, so white can capture a rook or something, but then after the recapture, the bishop just recaptures. And if captures up here, again, my knight doesn't have to capture anything, so I just have to maneuver my rooks away, and I'm fine. But anyways, we have bishop captures on b2, and I play rook h captures on e8, and now after the bishop takes here, obviously there are no more captures, so after I capture here, white has to immediately recapture. So king takes e3, knight f6, and it's pretty much all over now. I play rook d8, And after a5, now I've set up both these captures so I can push this pawn next move to f5, and after the bishop captures on a5, f4, and king captures on f4, I am now leading the series 3-2 in a best of 10. So we're going to switch that. That is wonderful. And we're moving on to game 6, where I have the white pieces again. And we go for the exact same line um, as the first game. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not. Oh wait, not b3. b3 is what I'm used to, so that is my bad. But queen c7, c3, knight e2, queen takes, rook takes, b3, and after knight b4, I go for g3 once again. Knight takes d3, queen takes d3, and knight f6, like in the first game. I take on d7, knight captures, and rook d1, again giving up the rook here. We have g6, rook takes, king takes, and bishop to d2 once again. Rook b8 and knight c3, and rook g8. Once again, rook to h1, but in this game we see f5. And here I make a blunder. After these moves are okay, but I'm actually pretty sure it leads to a forced draw, which we may or may not come across again later. But instead I play, oh, that's h3. That's my bad. I actually played a3, just pinning this bishop. So if I ever capture this pawn, then this could become a threat. And if the king doesn't capture and the bishop recaptures, there's already something set up for it. But okay, we have bishop to h6, um, which puts pressure here. The problem with this move is there's just after this capture. Um, uh, so if we played here, black's probably going to capture here. Oh, sorry. And then after I take this piece, I'm definitely not going to take the bishop. Bishop takes and knight takes. Black is relieved of this annoying bishop. White only has two major pieces left. This rook is much nicer, and maybe white or black will be able to develop into the game. But anyway, so that's why I don't go for this. But I play h3 here. Bishop takes e3 and f takes e3. And it's just all over now. f4, e takes f4, and this move is, I'm pretty sure, good, but we see e5, f takes e5, and after king d6, it opens up for this bishop. So bishop down to h3, and after rook takes, we have rook b to f8. That's g. Rook b to f8. Takes on h7, and then just keeping the rooks out of the way. Rook f7, giving one of them away first, and then rook h8. I take the only piece. Rook f8. Oh, my eyes are getting sore. Rook takes on a7, and then after here and pushing the pawn, UltimateSuperPlayer ties the score up at 3-3. So a very close match at this point. And well played by UltimateSuperPlayer. We now go into game 7. Game 7, I have the black pieces once again, and what I do, because I don't realize that when we play this same line, I go for b6 because I think, oh, I won the previous game, so I must be doing well. But we go for the same line, the same Watkins line. Watkins, if you didn't know, is the person who solved e3 for anti-chess. So this is the line, the strongest line possible to make the game last as long as possible for black, as this game is solved for white. Anyways, bishop takes, rook takes, queen takes, and king takes. I play knight f6 again, but this time UltimateSuperPlayer recognizes how to punish this. Rook takes, knight takes, and goes for queen to h5, now pressuring both of these pieces. So I play rook to g8, and queen takes f7, king takes f7, and now c4. With this queen gone, now I can't play here because these captures will be deadly. There's no queen to stop right here, so we could see this, and then something along the lines of the queen now being there will certainly help. We now have king to e6, though. I'm hoping maybe I can relieve some of this pressure. But e4 now, just continuing to push the pawns. The computer recommends king d5, but this is probably just delaying a later mate. But I go a. Oh wait, that's not the right move. I go king d7, just bring my king back. Obviously, this could become a threat, and I'd have to take all the pieces. But anyways, now a5, there it is. And I go for knight to a6. I probably could have delayed it longer, but I figured this might put some time pressure on him, as well as I'm only down to 11 seconds. We now have c5, and this is just all over. If you want to find a mate, go ahead. And now you've found it, so you won't even be surprised by this solution. That's how crazy you are. But d4, knight takes e4, and bishop to b5. Oh no, wait, sorry, that is my bad. Knight to b5. There we go. And after knight takes on f2, rook takes on a7. This is a very simple mate. Ultimate Superplayer did a great job finding it. d5, rook takes a5, b4, and after takes here, b5, and then gives away the bishop, and then, oh wait, I did not capture that. I captured with the rook, and after these captures, Ultimate Superplayer goes up by 1. In this match to 5.5, has also reached 4 points. So very close to winning. One more win would secure a draw for Ultimate Superplayer. And of course, at this point, Ultimate Superplayer is rated around, obviously, Anti-Chess International Master, and rated around 2100. But me being rated around 2200, maybe even up to 2250, I feel like this should be a game for me to win. And I really want the points because every point that I can get will help me in the Anti-Chess World Championships. So obviously, I was starting to feel the pressure when Ultimate Superplayer is now up 4-3 and only needs one more game for a draw. But anyways, I go once again for e3. I'm so far 2-1 with e3, and the previous game I just made a horrible blunder, so I still feel confident with this. d3, queen c7, a nice e3, and after the capture here, and the recapture, we now see b3, c takes b3, and oh shoot, and knight b4. All the exact same, and g6 like in the second game. And so we see queen takes, king takes, and bishop d2 once again. And now we see rook b8, so knight c3. And now we have b5. And this is safer this time. But anyways, captures. My rook is defending this pawn, and this pawn is being defended here. But I go for bishop b4, and after a3, it's looking pretty rough for me. Both these captures obviously lead to very strong positions for black. So I play rook a to d1, and I'm not excited because I feel like Ultimate Superplayer has a very strong position, and I'm pretty sure this position might actually be winning for black. But anyways, we have rook takes on e3, rook takes here on a3, and I'm pretty sure the strongest move is something like capturing here with the bishop, or maybe not. But in either case, Ultimate Player played the losing move of rook takes a3, because now if you want to pause the video, you can try to find it. But in this case, now I have rook d takes on e7, and after the rook takes here, I take back, and now these two captures will have to happen, and then I can push these two pawns. So bishop takes, rook takes, and after knight takes, we have h3, bishop takes, and g4, bishop takes. Sorry if I'm rushing a bit. I might be running out of time. But anyways, now that puts me at a score of 4, and now very intense, we're at a score of 4-4 in a game to 5.5. So each of us need, unless we draw the game, so each player wins 1, or a total of 1 point, one of us needs to come out on top in the next couple of games. But anyways, moving on to game 9, I have the black pieces again, and probably again the right move is for me to go b5 e6 or b5 bishop a6 and just maybe hope he goes back with this. And also I blundered very poorly in the first game, so maybe I can take advantage even with the strongest move that I hadn't prepped for. But after e3, I go for c5 again. Probably the worst choice for me, as it's the one that I was punished most brutally on. But I will go for queen c7 again. And after rook takes on h2, king takes, rook takes, rook takes, we see queen g4 again and g5. Queen takes d7, knight takes d7, and e4 once again. E takes f5, and after e6, I'm down to 24 seconds already, so this just shows that I didn't prep. This is the exact same line we played last game, and I was just looking for better moves in the opening, but I'm already down to 23 seconds, and Ultimate Superplayer has gained 30 seconds now from the 2 plus 5 increment, so he's at 2.5 minutes, but I go for rook to h2 now. E takes, and after rook takes g2, it's not looking good for me. Once again, Ultimate Superplayer promotes to knight. And I take on f2, king takes on f2, and now my rook takes, and it's not looking good for me. b4, c takes b4. You can try to find a mate for white here, and once you are done, now you're back. So you're going to see what Ultimate Superplayer played. a4, b takes a4, and there is a win here. But sadly, Ultimate Superplayer makes the only losing move, which is knight takes a3. Because now after rook takes down here, the knight actually has to capture. The thought was, I'm guessing when knight takes a3, that bishop would capture in something like the rook would capture, and meanwhile only capturing 2 pieces, now my rook has to capture an extra 2 and a third. So I'm guessing that's what the thought process was, but now after knight captures on c2, I just played bishop e7, and now with all these captures in this position, Ultimate Superplayer resigned the game. So now I'm up to 5, and so I'm thinking I studied very poorly for this. I'm not doing well, but I still have a chance to win the game. I just need to draw this last game. And we are playing in a position that I feel comfortable with. I'm 3-1 with the white pieces, and we play the exact same line. Queen c7. I'm sorry if I'm not saying the moves. It's just you've seen all of this before. b3 and knight b4. I go for g3, and after knight takes d3, queen takes d3, we see the knight to f6 line again. Queen takes, knight takes, rook d1, g6, rook takes d7, and king takes d7. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. Bishop d2, rook b8, knight c3, and rook g8 once again, rook h1, and f5, and I once again go for a3, which is a bit of a blunder. As I explained before, after this takes f3, knight here, and rook to d1. Promotion to bishop is the only piece you can promote to, and so you might be able to promote to knight, but it's a little bit tricky. So the funny thing is that's supposed to be a forced draw because of opposite colored bishops, and I can probably force that. But for whatever reason, I did not go for it, and I played a3 because a draw would win me the game. It would put me at 5.5 to Ultimate Superplayer's 4.5, and I would have the game won. But I go for a3, and yeah, I guess we'll find out. We go for bishop h6 again. I play bishop c1 just because it feels a little bit safe. Once again, though, Ultimate Superplayer's way up on time, 2.5 minutes to my 52 seconds. Bishop takes e3, f takes e3, and rook to e8, hoping to maybe push all of these pawns. I play b4, just trying to create pressure here, as this is where black is weak. And now we have h5, just putting more pressure here. And I make the losing move of knight to a4. So for the last time in this video, feel free to try to find the win for black. And you have done it. Congratulations, because you are back now and watching the video. We start with a4, and then this is where you see it is, oh shoot, sorry, a5. But that is not what was played first. It was h4 that was played first. And after g takes, now we have a5. And this is the big move, is b6, because now both pieces have to capture. Before, when my pawn was here, they didn't, but after a5, this is the big threat. So a takes, rook takes, knight takes. I figured this would be hard to calculate because maybe something will be screwed up here. But after bishop a6, it's all over. Knight takes d7, rook to f8 takes, f4, uh, and after knight takes to on g6, f takes e3, and knight takes e7. All we see is bishop to b5, and after my bishop captures, we have bishop to c6, and knight captures, and Ultimate Super Player wins the final game. So this game ends in a draw, which obviously, oh shoot, it's not working. Which obviously I was certainly hoping for better. But it was amazingly well played for Ultimate Super Player. Really took advantage of the fact that I didn't study properly or deep enough or as broad enough as I learned from this game. In my future games, I studied multiple lines and I studied them all as deep as I did the ones in this game. But I made sure I had studied more and I had prepared for more lines, and this was, as I said, an amazingly well played game to Anti-Chess International Master Ultimate Super Player. If you want to check out some of his games, I will link his profile along with this study by Kex in the description. Um, but other than that, this was round five, 5-5 draw for me in Ultimate Super Player. Once again, amazing player. But anyways, that will do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe, like, comment, share with your anti-chess friends. Hoping to hit 100 subscribers as soon as possible. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and have an excellent rest of your day.